how they can incorporate that into their game to find a path to victory.
Let's go ahead and kick it down to our match, get this thing started. This is going to be a best of 3 match, so we'll see who comes out on top. Maybe one of these players can force a game 3 potentially, and looks like Joe has won the coin flip here and gets to choose going first or second, and it looks like the option is to go second.
Yeah, so looks like we're going to be seeing Joe here, or go ahead and start things off.
Yeah, over on Ross's side, does start with a mulligan. We see that powerful Rapid Strike energy, and I think that's one of the key cards in this matchup for both players. The Rapid Strike energy for the Rapid Strike deck, and the Single Strike energy for the Single Strike deck.
And already seeing interesting builds over on Joe's side. Looks like playing that Cincino engine, really utilizing and valuing the ability to constantly draw cards. And Ross going first, not really much in the hand here. Has a quick ball if he chooses to go ahead and play that, but nothing super explosive to get things going.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to go ahead and use this quick ball. Does ditch the Cheryl here, which is such a key card, I feel like. We're dealing with Pokemon here that have 330 HP. These guys are not going to be going down in one hit. So something like Cheryl, which can heal damage from all of your evolution Pokemon in play, could be extremely valuable.
Yeah, Cheryl, one of those new cards released in Battle Styles, finding their way into some of these VMAX decks. As you said, being able to heal so much damage off of such tanky VMAX Pokemon.
Ross is kind of debating what to go with here. Based on the hand, I do kind of like this decision to go with the Jirachi. You've got Bird Keeper. You can switch into the Jirachi next turn, and you'll potentially find yourself with plenty of options. Over on Joe's side, actually starts that Kricketune V. Definitely a cute card. You don't see that too often, and going to be another new card from the Battle Styles expansion.
Yeah, and just looking through on the first deck search, looks like he's playing the Rose variant. So wants to really utilize as much energy acceleration as possible. Obviously, that attack on Urshifu VMAX requires you to discard all energy attached to it. So wants to just have a constant way to continuously bring back energies from the discard pile.
Definitely. So not even actually using the Houndoom that we would have normally expected, right? Kind of what you just naturally feels like it would go with the Single Strike Urshifu. Joe wanted to try something a little different. We've got extra draw ability via the Cinccino, via the Kricketune V, and then just relying on that Rose to get all of that energy acceleration. We are going to see the Air Balloon, and this is actually pretty solid as well. Turn 1 can get off the laser focus so that you can get a little extra energy acceleration, so it makes it much easier to build up to the Single Strike VMAX's G-Max one blow attack.
Yeah, and something else to note, the Single Strike Urshifu V has a solid attack as well for 3 energy. You can hit 180 damage. That might be a good route for Joe to play, especially seeing Cheryl hit the discard pile turn 1. Could try to set up for some 2-shots, as I believe we'll need 2 or 3 Single Strike energy attached to be able to knock out with G-Max one blow.
Yeah, and that would be a super big swing in Joe's favor. If you can get that one-hit KO on a VMAX, we've already seen Ross's list, right? Maybe relying a little bit on the Cheryl to try to get out of some of those situations where, you know, you're tanking these 2-hit KOs. Cheryl's not going to be very good if your opponent can deal 330 damage.
Yeah, so we'll see what route they want to play. Stellar Wish here has a few cards to grab. Already have the switch to get Jirachi out, but is valuing perhaps using the Power Plant. Don't know how many Pokemon Joe is playing with abilities on GX Pokemon.
Right.
And it looks like we actually are going to see the Reset Stamp. Go ahead and throw Joe's hand back into the deck. It's going to draw 6 cards, and it looks like we may just go ahead and see this thing swing for some damage, or we're going to be seeing Crobat draw some cards, which it looks like we might.
Yeah, and I think with Ross playing that stamp, it definitely means we'll see this Crobat here come down. Normally a card that's very powerful in the late game, so if you can afford to save it, it's definitely nice. And Ross just unable to find that VMAX, unfortunately. I'm sure that's what he was digging for here. Does have the scoop up net, so could reset that Stellar Wish, and we could still see yet another dig here with the Stellar Wish. Maybe finding another quick ball. We could see more cards here with Dedenne GX as well.
Yeah, just so much explosive draw in this format. Crobat, Dedenne, and draw supporters on top of that. Looks like Research will be the grab. And I have to imagine not hitting VMAX, just such a very unfortunate position to be in. Is just going to have to pass the turn back over to Joe. We'll see what he can put together in this next turn.
Does have a level ball in hand. Pretty good. Could go ahead and set up a couple of those Mincinos, which are definitely pretty key. But other than that, you have to be able to thin the hand down here, and you can draw just one card with the Kricketune. So it might have to be a big card here for Joe to have much going on this turn. Of course, like you said earlier, does have that second attack there, the impact blow on Urshifu. Could at least attack. Let's see what this draw is. And it is a quick ball. Doesn't quite help, though, with a filled bench.
Yeah, and we also see Joe go ahead and throw down that Mew from Unbroken Bonds. Having the bench barrier ability prevents it from being hit by bench damage for any of your bench Pokemon. And that's a really good card against this Rapid Strike Urshifu that really wants to target down the bench Pokemon like these fragile Cinccino's.
Kind of an awkward hand for Ross. I mean, you really do... It's unfortunate, but you really do just have to Professor's Research away this hand. You don't want to lose the Rapid Strike energies. They're so valuable, but it's kind of just one of those situations where you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, and interesting to attach the Fighting Energy to the Crobat. That could actually come in handy. Seems like an odd play, but it will give Ross another out to being able to retreat and use Gale Thrust to get that maximum effect with the damage.
Right, of course, Gale Thrust does only hit for that extra damage when it moves from the bench to the active spot during your turn, not between turns, which is what we just saw. So will not be able to get that extra damage. If he wants to throw down any damage besides just, a 30 from Gale Thrust, Ross is going to have to discard all 3 energies that he's built up on this Rapid Strike Urshifu, and he's going to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and the Mew is going to come in so clutch here. It's going to prevent any damage done to the bench, and that's just going to be a minus 120 damage just from playing a Pokemon down at the bench. So Joe definitely happy he was able to find that Mew last turn.
Oh, yeah, and also looks like found a research either off the prizes or off of the top deck, which is very nice. Going to go ahead and quick ball, thin out a Minccino. Not something you really need at this point. You've got the 2-2 set up, and does draw a fresh hand of 7 and can find communication, can as well find the Cinccino's. We can start to see the make-dos drawing more and more cards. And I almost wonder here, do you even want to VMAX this active Urshifu V? It's kind of just like sacrificing 3 prizes if you do.
Yeah, I would say in most cases you're probably forced to switch this out. It does have a switch in hand, but we actually see the scroll, the single strike scroll in hand, and that can maximize the damage, pretty much hit for what the attack would be onto the V. Would be able to hit for 190 damage and set up a 2-shot onto this VMAX without having to go into a fresh Urshifu and take that opportunity to build up something new.
Yeah, the scroll actually is a really big draw here for Joe. The impact blow effect does say that you cannot use it during your next turn. So if Joe had not been able to find the scroll here, the only attack we would have potentially seen is I guess another laser focus, which would not be very good.
Yeah, we're actually seeing the switch into the Kricketune, so actually we'll be able to use the attack onto the V if choose, but better yet is going to get 3 new cards off of Exciting Stage. Since that Kricketune is in the active, you get to draw up to 4 instead of 3.
Yeah, such a cool card from the new set. Really reminiscent of the old Sun and Moon Oranguru, which let you draw 3 cards, up to 3 cards, once during your turn. Kricketune has the added benefit of, if it is in the active spot, drawing you that additional 4th card, which, I mean, you know it as well as I do, Ethan. Sometimes 1 card can really make all the difference.
Yeah, every card counts in the Pokemon trading card game, and we see action back on Ross's side, able to find another Urshifu to get powered up. Hand is not looking too poor, does have the ability to draw some cards off this research, but really wants to find a way to get that Urshifu back in the active, or at least put on some aggression swinging here to continue to put aggression, because the more time you give the single strike deck, the more pressure it can continue to put on as it builds up to that one-shot potential on these big VMAX Pokemon.
Absolutely. Ross's best option here, I mean, with the attachment going to this Rapid Strike Urshifu V that just came into play, I mean, you can throw some damage down with Strafe, but you're still not getting any closer to knocking out this single strike Urshifu V in the active spot. And you're actually just kind of putting more damage in play to where your opponent's single strike Scroll of Scorn could just do a lot more.
Yeah, I actually just noticed Ross will actually be able to take the knockout because of that Fighting Dojo's second effect.
Oh, yep.
If you have more prizes left than your opponent, you do 40 more damage, so that will be pretty much enough to take the knockout on this, and he'll be able to preserve that Urshifu with the fresh energy and throw up maybe a little bit more fragile of a Pokemon like this Mewtwo that just came into play.
Definitely, and puts the Cheryl on top for the next turn. Okay, don't count Ross out yet. Gonna have an option to heal 210 damage potentially next turn, and like you said, can just run into the Mewtwo pretty safely with a Scoop Up Net in hand.
And we even see the VMAX for next turn, so we'll be able to either retreat via the Urshifu VMAX that has an air balloon on it, or if this Mewtwo stays in the active for some reason, can just scoop up net and get out of there. Even has an escape route for added benefit as well.
And we will see that dojo coming in clutch. Joe's own martial arts dojo kind of hurting him a little bit here. Joe also not really going to be able to attack unless he's able to find that rose. That's going to be the key card here. He needs to find it and does not quite get it yet. Might have to use that Dedenne to dig, because otherwise this Urshifu VMAX on the bench is not going to be able to attack.
Yeah, and it looks like may just take the turn to build up this Urshifu VMAX. Swinging into a Mewtwo never feels good, especially when you allow your opponent to just get another hit. And this is pretty much going to give Ross an extra turn. Has the Cheryl off the top deck, so we will at minimum, if Ross chooses to, going to be able to heal that damage that the Urshifu V put in work to do.
Definitely, and I think we'll probably see that Cheryl come down here. Also has the Scoop Up Net, and also has Escape Rope as well if Ross wants to hit into something that is not this Cricketune in the active. And it might actually be pretty good to use this Escape Rope here. You'll either get to knock out a Chinchino, you can knock out the Mew, which means you could potentially go for the second attack on Urshifu VMAX in the future, or you go ahead and get some damage onto the opposing Single Strike Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah, I wonder if we might actually see both switching cards come into effect. Ross's hand, besides this, is not looking too great, so can obviously reuse the Mewtwo to get another supporter onto the top of the deck, and we see that actually going to get played first. So now is the question of if something like Escape Rope gets played, but we will see the Cheryl first go ahead and heal the damage off of that VMAX.
I think what Ross might be doing here is just trying to hold on to the Escape Rope for the next turn, so that way you can retreat the Urshifu and recycle the Gale Thrust, right? Because you do need to move from the bench to the active every single turn in order to get that additional effect. So those switch cards can be extremely valuable on those turns that you need them.
Yeah, and 20 damage short of being able to knock out this Cricketune. So close. Maybe we'll be able to pick that up later with something like the G-Max Rapid Flow. And action is going to be back on to Joe here. Looks like going to go ahead and start things off with a Make Do. Going to be able to draw some more cards into this hand. I have to imagine is probably looking for a way to build up this Single Strike Mon even more.
And it is going to be a Boss's Orders played from Joe, able to knock out this Fighting Weak Crobat.
So it looks like there is the third Single Strike energy onto the Crobat, and this is going to be an excellent spot for Joe. Going to be able to go down to 3 prize cards, and like you said, big knockouts of these VMAX Pokemon are becoming even more realistic now that there are the 3 energies needed to take a knockout onto pretty much anything on Ross's side.
And I don't know if there's really going to be much that Ross can do here. Gale Thrust, you can hit. I mean, you could run into a 2-prizer here or a 1-prizer, but it doesn't get you any closer to winning the game. You just kind of got to hope maybe off this reset stamp here that your opponent is unable to find that last energy needed in order to take the knockout. But reset stamp is very much weakened when your opponent has multiple Chinchinos with Make Do already set up.
Yeah, and the problem with Reset Stamp, it will reset Joe's hand a little bit, but that's where Cincino comes in so clutch to be able to allow you to draw extra cards off of something like the Reset Stamp. It gives you more outs when put in these situations that Reset Stamp can just kind of put on you out of nowhere.
We see Ross debating where to put this energy. I think you just kind of need to power up the 2 Rapid Strikes, but I mean, it really is just going to come down to does Joe have an energy left? I mean, we look over at Joe's side, 4 cards left in deck, right? Which is exactly what he'll be able to draw with the Make Do. So as long as there is an energy card in deck, I think Joe's going to be able to close this one out.
Yeah, I mean, the only other play I see is maybe retreating into something like an Empoleon, but I think at this point, Ross is just saying, hey, if you have it here. There's not really much I can do. And I mean, just looking through the options, but it's looking like Joe is most likely going to be able to close this one out.
Yeah, maybe what Ross could have done is retreated to that Empoleon, attached an energy to it, and then passed for the turn. Then your opponent, they can't knock out the Empoleon, right? Because if they do that, they're going to discard all those energies. And if they do that, that means that they're not going to be taking the knockout on your VMAX on the following turn. So maybe it's like a 2-turn play where you have to send up the Empoleon with the energy on it, and then next turn, Rapid Strike energy, attack with the Empoleon, and just try to go from there.
Yeah, and it looks like the Dene will get played, so Dene Change is going to go ahead and discard the hand, draw 6 new cards for Ross, and it didn't look like he found anything. Quick Ball, not even getting anything. 3 cards left in the deck for Ross.
There was a Scoop Up Net there left in the deck, so I think what Ross was going for is trying to find that 1 Scoop Up Net left and the Giratina here, so that you could use the Giratina ability in order to get rid of an energy on Joe's Urshifu here in the active spot. The reset stamp does put 11 cards left into Joe's deck, so there is always the chance that Joe is unable to find an energy card here, but you're going to get to see a lot of cards. And Dedenne, I think, is going to seal it. As long as there is an energy left, Make Do will draw the remainder of the deck, and 1 single energy will be able to do 340 damage, which is enough to pick up this KO on the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX.
Yeah, Joe's showing us the power of the draw engine. Since, there is the energy. G-Max 1 blow, dealing a humongous 340 damage, is going to go ahead and knock out this VMAX, and Joe will take game 1.
Definitely an exciting game there. Joe is able to take it down. Ross might need to make some adjustments moving into this second game if he wants to force a game 3. Ethan, what do you think Ross needs to do differently in this second game?
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a slow start there. Wasn't able to put on as much aggression. Really wants to just target down that V and V Max Urshifu. Another cool adjustment he could take is trying to target the Mew. I don't think Joe plays any recovery cards. So once that Mew gets eliminated via knocked out, we could see the G-Max Rapid Flow go ahead and knock out multiple Cinccino's and really slow the drawdown for Joe.
Yeah, that would be excellent on Ross's side if he can manage to take out the Mew and then later on go with like a reset stamp plus knocking out double Cinccino in play, eliminating kind of draw options, leaving him with only the Kricketune pretty much, right? Would definitely be really strong if Ross can manage to pull that back.
Yeah, so we'll see what approach both these players take in this game. But I think we're ready to go ahead and get into game number 2 here. So let's go ahead and throw it down to the players. And it looks like we're going to be seeing who goes ahead and goes first. So we'll see. It looks like Joe just deciding. I think Ross will get to choose. So Ross going to go ahead and elect to go first in game number 2.
It's kind of interesting. I think no matter who chooses, we're going to see the same result, right? I think Joe really wants to, get off the laser focus on turn 1. Ross really wants to get an attachment so he can evolve and start attacking on turn 1. So Ross is definitely going to prefer to go first, and Joe is definitely still going to prefer to go second.
We see with Ross's hand here, not very powerful at all. Just has to attach a Rapid Strike energy and pass the turnover. Meanwhile, hand is looking a lot better for Joe. We'll be able to start things off with a Pokemon Communications to be able to find any Pokemon out of the deck and put it into his hand.
Gonna opt for the Single Strike Urshifu. I really feel like getting Mew down here right away could be really, really good. That is something Ross could do next turn, is just find VMAX plus an energy, but no worries on Joe's side. Does have a level ball. Mew is definitely still potentially going to be coming out here.
It looks like it's in the deck, and what an excellent hand is going to be able to get that turn 1 laser focus to start putting on some aggression super quickly. Even getting down 2 Minchinos this turn is absolutely excellent. Joe is in a perfect spot on this turn 1. I don't think I could actually ask for anything more than what we're seeing here.
I don't know. I mean, did Joe stack his deck? Like, what's happening here? It literally perfect setup here. It feels like laser focus right away, and we can start to see a single strike Urshifu VMAX as early as next turn. And Ross is kind of stuck here. Ooh, that is a pretty good top deck, though, with a Pokemon is able to get value from this Pokemon communication. And we could still see the VMAX, or we could see a Rapid Strike energy going down to a benched Urshifu V.
Yeah, I think just looking through the decks from both these players, it looks like Ross has prized one of his VMAX Urshifus, and especially what we saw in Game 1, having such trouble getting that VMAX out as quickly as he did. This could definitely be a position where Ross is going to want to draw into that. Interesting ruling note here we see, though, is that V must be VMAX before it switches into the active to get the full effect off of Gmax Rapid Flow. It will only hit for 30 damage if to say it was evolved right now, but this hand is just not looking so good for Ross. Really has no way to do anything, draw cards. Giratina can't get rid of energy, and I think Ross may be stuck yet again.
Yeah, this hand is terrible, to be honest, on Ross's side. He doesn't really have... I mean, you've got this Crobat, but in order to utilize it, you'd have to play an Escape Rope at kind of an inopportune time. You really want to save this Giratina for later in the game when some of those single strike energies come into play, right? So, I don't know. We might just have to see... Yeah, it looks like the Strafe, and it's really all Ross can do.
Yeah, strafe math can be important. It will set up the VMAXs to be able to two-shot and top deck boss's orders. So we'll see if Joe has any other way to draw cards. And looks like the Dene is in the deck. We'll be able to get Joe a fresh new 6 cards and also get some energy. It looks like considering whether or not to throw this energy down or not. At minimum, this Urshifu will be able to deal 180 damage to this Rapid Strike Urshifu.
Yeah, and maybe this is kind of what Joe really wants to do in the matchup. Use the first single strike Urshifu, just start using Impact Blow, throw some damage down, and then you always have the option to use that single strike Scroll of Scorn right in the later game, and then just save the next one to be your VMAX, right?
And what a top deck there for Ross. Finds Pokemon Communications off the top of the deck. Will allow him, if he so chooses to get that VMAX, or maybe finding something like the Jirachi to draw more cards. It looks like we'll choose to go ahead and get Jirachi and start Stellar Wishing to try to find some of those trainer cards out of the deck.
Definitely. We'll see this Escape Rope be played, and Joe, I mean, doesn't have a great choice of what to send up. If you send up the Dene GX, it very easily gets KO'd. You don't really want your other single strike Urshifu to get KO'd. You definitely don't want the Mew to be KO'd. And so what do you have to do? Give up one of your Minchinos here? Definitely a tough choice. And you can see Joe is really not sure which to send up.
Yeah, I think maybe Minchino is probably the best option. But it's actually going to go ahead and send the Dene up, so play it a little bit on the wild side.
Yeah.
We could see an easy 2 prizes get taken, as Ross will be able to draw first prizes and take the first knockout of this game. Looks like eyeing up either a Quick Ball or a Research off of this Stellar Wish. Again, having so many pieces that you really don't want to discard, but it looks like Research will be the grab. And again, you could guarantee the knockout with that Urshifu V. It does have an attack on it that deals 150 damage. Obviously, Dene being weak to fighting means it will be able to take the knockout. It looks like that will be what Ross goes ahead and goes for. At minimum, can still find something like a VMAX or some other Pokemon, and we will even just see, it looks like the hand get thinned out so that Crobat can use Dark Asset and draw 4 cards here.
Yeah, it feels real bad to use Scoop Up Net for basically no value, but you got to thin those cards out. Dark Asset only draws you up to 6, so need to lower the hand size when you can. And the Marnie here actually could be pretty disruptive if Ross is able to go for it, and also has a switch. So if you can find the VMAX, that would definitely be kind of a good option here so that you don't risk, you know, this Urshifu maybe taking too much damage. But actually still just going to go ahead and go with the Marnie. Maybe we will just see this single strike, or excuse me, this Rapid Strike Urshifu V, not the VMAX, taking this KO.
Yeah, and we could actually see an approach similar to what Joe took Game 1, where you actually don't VMAX this Urshifu. Let it put in some damage, minimize the amount of prizes your opponent's taking. Definitely does not feel good to VMAX and give your opponent 2-shot for 3 prizes rather than a 2-shot for 2 prizes. But we actually will go ahead and see this get VMAXed. So really prioritizing the ability to put on more aggression later on and most likely just going to go ahead and see a Gale Thrust. No real reason to discard more energy with G-Max Rapid Flow. Obviously, Mew dealing that. But actually forgetting that you cannot utilize the effect on G-Max Rapid Flow, like I said, if that evolves into the active.
Yeah, it has to be the VMAX that moves from the bench to the active spot. It can't evolve and then get the boosted effect. It has to be the VMAX when it comes from the bench to the active. And we do see a Rose here from Joe, but no energies in the discard pile quite yet.
Yeah, opted to not go ahead and discard that off of Make Do to be able to utilize Rose. But I think, honestly, Joe is pretty set with his hand. He's got the Rapid Strike energy for next turn. This Urshifu V single strike is not really in any threat of getting KO'd this turn. So we may just see an Impact Blow. It looks like that will be what we see. It's going to deal 180 damage to this active VMAX. And like I said, now you're in a position where you need to get this out of the active. You don't want to let your opponent take prize cards. And what option is there? It looks like we are going to actually see the Boss's Orders up on the Mew. Again, such an important card in this matchup. Wants to just go ahead and take care of that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, Ross knew how bad that was for him in this last game, right? So maybe if Ross can deal with the Mew here, we could see the, Chinchinos be knocked out later. Also, dealing the 60 damage to Dedenne does mean that it can be knocked out while on the bench. It doesn't have to be active to be hit by weakness, right? So you can pick up that KO later on. So it could still work out for Ross here.
Yeah, this play actually could go and bite Ross back. That Urshifu single strike V, not being able to utilize that attack, the Impact Blow, if it used it last turn, will now be able to utilize that attack again because it was reset and put onto the bench. And we saw that Joe's hand is not looking too great, but will at least be able to take 3 prize cards in this next turn if he so chooses to.
Man, it feels so bad to have to discard 3 energies in order to knock out a Pokemon with 60 HP, but it's kind of what Ross had to do in that spot, and it might free him up quite a bit later on in this game.
And we see the Make Do's start to come out with that Chinchino. Drawing into a VMAX, the first one I think we've seen all game. I think just debating which one to go ahead and VMAX. I think probably the best choice here will be that one with the single strike energy. Wants to again set that up over time so it will be able to deal 330 plus damage. Obviously, you can boost that with the martial arts dojo. And it looks like we will see that get attached and research will get played.
Yeah, we do see that dojo come out. I actually wonder because dojo did seem to benefit Ross a little bit more in that first game, right, than it did Joe in that first game. So maybe Joe will actually kind of hold off on putting that dojo in play potentially.
Yeah, an interesting choice to go ahead and level ball for the Minchino. Could just guarantee a Chinchino the following turn. Instead is just going to go ahead and grab that and maybe wants to opt to just grab a different Pokemon like this Kricketune V. So just abandoning getting a third Chinchino out, instead wants to utilize Kricketune for the late game of something like a reset stamp down to a low hand size.
Yeah, this does give you that option at least, right? So I kind of like having the multiple different draw routes in your hand, right? So you can get value potentially from the Kricketune, from the Chinchinos as well. So I think it seems solid. And we will just see the Impact Blow, able to pick up this KO, 2-hit KO, 180 HP each time. And does take a single strike energy off the prizes. That is such an important card because you do need 3 single strike energies on the Urshifu VMAX in order to pick up a 1-hit KO on your opponent's Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX.
A nice top deck here as we look at Ross's side. He's going to go ahead and start his turn off with a Rapid Strike Energy top deck. Can try to set up this clean Rapid Strike Urshifu. Quick Ball will most likely go ahead and grab the Dene and will allow Ross to see 6 new cards off of this Dene change.
Yeah, a lot of times you really want to avoid, unfortunate, Ross is not able to find the VMAX yet. Sorry, I was going to say a lot of times you just really don't want to put these 2 prize fighting weak Pokemon in play because they can be knocked out so easily. But Ross has already got the Crobat in play, and so it really just doesn't really make a difference, right? There's already so much damage on the Urshifu V that's on the bench. There's, the Crobat that's already in play. So it should be pretty easy if Joe does chase around a VMAX for Joe to get the prizes anyway. So Ross saying, I need cards. Marnie's not going to do it for me. I got to go ahead with the Dedenne. And we see the Stellar Wish here finding quite a few different options.
Yeah, I think was really trying to find that Pokemon Communications could scoop up Net the Jirachi, put it back into the hand, and then utilize that for the effective Pokemon Communications to find an Urshifu VMAX. But instead, not able to find that. Actually down a fair amount of Pokemon Communications as we look at Ross's discard pile. So we may very likely see this Crobat come up, Jirachi get played down, and research and say, hey, I need to find VMAX here or I am in trouble.
Oh, and doesn't quite have it yet. Can retreat and use Stellar Wish, but then you're not able to get the Jirachi back out of the active spot. Wasn't able to find another Scoop Up Net or Switch or anything, so Ross might be kind of stuck here. You can at least Strafe, but Strafe is not going to get you very far in this one, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't even know if the damage is relevant there. It may just be better to leave the Jirachi in the active, get an extra trainer card, and I think Ross debating it, but that could just be better at this point. I think realizes that is going to go ahead and retreat to Jirachi, hoping to be able to find some sort of VMAX. Debating what to do. Has the ability to Stellar Wish once more if he chooses to, but I think, realizes hey, it's better to go ahead and find an extra card here and a few more options to look at before ending the turn, which we most likely will see.
The Tool Scrapper is something that could come into play, eventually takes away your opponent's pivots. We do see the Air Balloon over on Joe's Chinchino on the bench. Would be nice to get value out of discarding multiple Air Balloons, but just taking away that pivot, especially when your opponent can't attack this turn, right? Impact Blow was used, so that Single Strike Urshifu would have to go to the bench in order to be able to attack.
We are actually going to go ahead and see the strafe, so we'll deal 30 damage, switch back into this Jirachi, and action's going to be back on Joe to see what he can put together. Obviously, Chinchino being such a great draw engine to find the cards and finds the Air Balloon to be able to pivot out of this active.
Or even the Single Strike Scroll of Scorn with 10 plus 10 more damage, right, for each damage counter. That is enough to knock out Jirachi here.
Yeah, Jirachi being a pretty fragile Pokemon, having a strong ability, but at a cost of being pretty weak. So we could see Joe take this route. It would allow him to utilize the attack on the V to deal some damage next turn, but actually taking an interesting route is going to go ahead and VMAX and attach the Scroll of Scorn. It looks like debating the attachment, and it looks like he will go ahead and attach that and able to power up this VMAX even further. And we see Joe is, at this point, just the boss's orders away from taking this game.
Yeah, definitely a favorable spot for Joe here. The boss already waiting in hand. And what is Ross going to be able to do to come back in this one? It's such an uphill battle. Joe has 3 energy apiece on these massive VMAX Pokemon, actually even 4 on the benched one. I mean, you were able to take care of the Mew as Ross, but was it too little too late?
Yeah, we see a few options in this hand. We did see Ross has a second reset stamp in deck, so could see that come into play. Obviously, needs to find a way to disrupt the hand, or else Joe will be able to take the second game of this series. I think just looking through the options on what to do, I don't know if there's many basic Pokemon left in the deck to grab with Quick Ball, and it looks like Ross is running out of ways to put together this game somehow.
Yeah, it's really tough for sure. I mean, you got to find the VMAX, but also at the same time, like maybe some of your only plays left involve using the boss's orders, which means you can't dig any cards out of your deck. It's really tough. We do see the Quick Ball grab a Jirachi, so maybe getting a Stellar Wish option. I mean, you do have the boss's orders plus the Giratina, so you could bring up the Urshifu on the bench and discard an energy that's on it potentially, but it's just, I think all of Ross's options are not the best, right? It's just kind of tough at this point.
Yeah, not drawing into the reset stamp, one of the 4 cards left in Ross's deck. It looks like things are going to be pretty much set in stone for Joe, but Ross will be able to put on some aggression here at the end of the day. We could see a final G-Max Rapid Flow to deal some damage, even a possible 3-prize turn with the Great Catcher to be able to bring up this Dedenne. We could actually see Ross try to trap it in the active and take some knockouts onto things like those 2 Chinchinos on the bench.
Yeah, definitely could be the play here. You got to just hope your opponent doesn't have like a switch card plus boss, which, I mean, that's not information Ross has. We look over at Joe's hand and see that Joe has plenty of options to close this out pretty much regardless. But, you know, with Ross not knowing that, has to do what he thinks is best to try to come back in this one. And it feels like trying to snipe around this Dedenne, maybe stick it active for a turn, could be a potential path back into this.
Yeah, and just thinking through the final actions, what else can you do at this point? Ross is up against the wall, but will put him in a position where he could find a way to squeak this out. I think he's just playing to his outs at this point, and just I think at this right now, just deciding what is the best two targets to target down with Gmax Rapid Flow.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going with this strategy here, trying to lock the Dedenne active, it has to just be the two Chinchinos, right? Take away your opponent's draw, limit all their options as you possibly can. We're actually just going to see the second boss here as well, giving that option potentially for the next turn. Which, sadly, we know there will not be a next turn for Ross here.
Yeah, and it looks like actually going to target down the Cricketune in combination with this Chinchino on the bench. Going to leave the Dedenne active, but as we see in Joe's hand, it looks like there is going to be enough to close this game out. There's the switch into the single strike Urshifu. Boss's orders will be able to bring the Crobat up, and we will see the G-Max one blow for extra fun, dealing a whopping 580 damage. Joe is going to take this set 2-0. A well-played set by both of these players. Super awesome to see, and it's a little bit of a change of pace. And what a great set. Super fun to watch.
Yeah, the Battle Styles expansion is still very new, but I feel like this is a matchup that we might be seeing played out potentially for years to come in the